Hey everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 73. Big Box Steve on the mic, Derek Big Smooth, and Fresh Wes. Uh, Thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like. Appreciate all of the new, say it again, new Spotify listeners. Audience is growing on Spotify, so can't complain about that. So appreciate you listening and taking the polls. So we've been adding polls. And who was the best Super Bowl quarterback between Joe Montana and Tom Brady?
I for in the Super Bowl,
Yeah, just in the Super Bowl.
I would say it's Montana.
Wes, what do you think?
In the Super Bowl performance at Montana.
Yeah, it was Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I agree. I think you got to go with Montana there. Obviously, Brady has more wins,
But his early ones weren't him, really.
right? Performance wise, I'm taking Montana personally. But I love it that, and we're not getting a lot of answers, right? I mean, let's be honest here.
people
we,
are
we ain't got
busy.
we ain't got a million viewers.
Yeah,
But if you're listening, tell your friends. We need to get there. So good stuff there. Got a new podcast that posting soon. But we're starting here in August, and I want to talk a little bit about football, right? Because we're getting close, getting real close. And we're going to be jumping into fantasy football, people getting prepared for the drafts, talking about the HSC podcast, fantasy football, getting into our picks for like who's going to win divisions, who's going to make the playoffs. So we're going to have a lot of football coming up. But also, college football starts this month. So I think that's something fun to talk about. So that'll be our main topic. Before we get into that, and I know Wes, you mentioned this, which I think is a good topic, just a short kind of kick it off. Talk about what's going on with running backs in the NFL right now. Like what's happening right now with running backs in the NFL. And first of all, they're second class citizens. It seems like.
Well, I think it's the statistics show that, their rookie contracts, if you're a first round running back, you make more usually than you do in your second contract.
Right.
But that's because, by the time you get out of your rookie deal, you're like 25, 26. And if you look at the running backs, the history of the running backs lately that have gotten their big deals, they've underperformed greatly.
Right.
I mean, and we've gone to a league. It's not like the 80s. You're not getting, you know, taking a running back in the top 2 or 3 or number 1 overall
no.
and being a workhorse for 10 years. It's people are more like inclined to be like, oh, we'll have like 2 or 3 backs and we'll rotate.
Yeah. Is that best for the systems these days, Wes? Like, is that should are the owners or the GMs or like, do you think they're right in that thought process?
yeah. If you just look at the numbers and you just look at, you know, especially when you're talking about salary cap, it's just like, you're best just to instead of signing a guy long term on a big deal, just getting these running a three-headed system, and just drafting running backs every couple of years and just doing that. That seems to be what they want to do here, instead of paying guys. And it makes sense until they start changing the rules in the CBA. There's been talk about people about maybe paying, giving them the option to pay running backs earlier, which doesn't make sense to me. That's not going to fly with the other players. There really is no solution. It's just the evolution and the changing of the game. It's going to get worse because running backs also, I think they're going to see the wisdom that, running the ball up the middle so much, it's not really going to benefit teams the way it used to, the way the offenses have changed.
Isn't there, I don't know. So when I kind of think about it, and here's my question, isn't there an underrated thought process to having a guy, we'll just use Derrick Henry as example, where he's not affecting the game always when he's carrying the ball, but he's affecting the game when he's in the game because of the way the defense is reacting to him of maybe stacking the box, right? Or coming up a little bit on the run. Like, doesn't that make a difference?
I mean, they haven't won anything.
No.
No, I'm not saying about winning. I'm thinking about just the way the teams react to him on the field, right? Like, because if let's say you don't stack the box against Derrick Henry, what's going to happen?
Right.
He's going to go for 200, right?
Yeah, but they still might not win. The thing is, the games change so much, and the passing is. I mean, it's not like the '80s. Even in the '80s, it's like, teams could run the football and milk the clock, and there wasn't the offensive genius that it is nowadays to score more points overall.
Right.
Now you start milking the clock. You can milk the clock, but that doesn't always generate wins so much, and especially in the playoffs. It's
But
the guys.
even the '90s, you had Emmett Smith with a great line controlling the ball, Thurman Thomas. You had running backs.
That was the '90s. Remember the '90s? What is it today? That's like almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The game has changed even a lot in 30 years.
Do you guys think you could have a running back that can legitimately control a game or a season in this day and age?
Control a game, key word right there is, I think in a game, in a playoff game, yes, they can affect the game, especially if if you're playing outdoors. If you're playing in places like Buffalo and up north, of course they can. But overall, the consensus is it's not a running back league anymore like it was. They're going to throw the football. Even in cold weather, they throw the football now. I mean, look at Kansas City, and
Right.
it doesn't really change. They're always going to run the ball by committee and when they have to, but still, the game has changed so much. I just don't see. You might have an example here and there, like that's out of the norm. Like you have a running back that he's the workhorse in the playoffs, but there's not going to be too many of those years.
You also have quarterbacks that are running at a higher level now too.
Look at Jalen Hurts; he's basically
right.
Daniel Jones.
And Daniel Jones.
Watch out. My favorite.
I don't. Who was it? One of the analysts, I guess, kind of analysts we were call him, was just hammered Daniel Jones, saying he's not even top 15, and yet you paid him all this money and you're not paying Saquon.
Well, because
was it Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, in today, like Le'Veon Bell's long gone. I'm just talking about now. And how do you guys feel about Josh Jacobs? Because here goes, you're Raiders fans. Now, Josh Jacobs, to me, is a really solid running back.
Yeah, but I mean, how many games they won last year with him leading the league in rushing? Yeah. So, like, if you lead the league in rushing, and it's not his fault, he did great. But I'm not paying him $16 million a year when your team sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't really have.
Who are you paying $16 million a year?
On that team, the only people would be Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, but
right. And Devontae Adams, he's kind of hit and miss last year, at least.
Yeah. Well, didn't he lead the league in touchdowns?
Yeah. I mean, not saying he didn't have a good year, but he had big games and small games, throughout the year.
Well, I just feel like everyone forgets, like, for some reason, it's so funny. Like they have, Madden gave Justin Jefferson the 99, and Adams is like a 97. But I mean, Adams had the whole car controversy, and then he had what's his name started in the last few games.
Stidham.
Still, yeah, Stidham. And he still put up, let's look here. Yeah, he had 100 catches, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns.
Right. Yeah, he did have a good year.
I mean, it was his.
But that also, if you want to take that mindset, that didn't relate to wins either.
Right.
Because the Raiders still didn't win a lot of games. So it's not like a great receiver is going to win you games. So if a great receiver is not going to win you games, a great running back's not going to win you games. What should NFL teams be really looking at? Because I don't. If I'm running an NFL team personally, when you start talking about guys like Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, these are not guys I want to lose. And maybe that's just my thought process, but I would rather have those caliber players on my team.
But yeah, I mean, look at even Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers paid him.
Right.
And then he got hurt. And they didn't do anything. And then they weren't good again. So then they traded him. All right. And now everyone's talking about Christian McCaffrey, the number one running back for fantasy football. Oh, yeah. Why? Because he's on one of the top teams in the NFL with like the number one defense.
Yeah.
I mean, it all it's same with like quarterbacks. You know, it's like Jimmy G with the Raiders is not as valuable as Jimmy G on the 49ers.
Yeah. And the thing is, I see the next couple years, I think the Niners are going to really exploit teams with McCaffrey and Debo. Is you're going to have a guy in the backfield that's, versatile, but the guy that is really the threat is the guy that's more like a wing back, like Debo. The Debo's going to catch the ball. He's going to run the ball. They can run a lot of, just a lot of different formations out of that. And they're going to make teams scared on the edge. Like they're going to be concentrated. Do we, pick your poison? We're going to kind of shift the defense towards Debo, or play the middle with McCaffrey. They could cause teams a lot of problems this year.
Does that make Jonathan Taylor less valuable as being more of a, every down back, has to carry 20, 25 times a game? He's not the greatest out of the backfield.
Well, John, yeah, to a certain extent. If you don't have that other guy that, kind of in the slot more or less, you can maybe stack the box. But like I said, these teams got that figured out. How did the Colts do last year? It's a different league. So a guy like Jonathan Smith is expendable to a certain extent, even though that he's a great running back. But like I said, it's just a revolving door of guys that carry the ball in different ways. You just don't have the traditional, stud, every down back.
Is it like, maybe looking into the future of the league that maybe all players become this, right? Do they become all expendable, or like multiple position player, or not multiple position, but like let's rotate 5-6 receivers in?
It's positionless. That's the term. Is they're going to become more positionless. They'll be, they're going to be in the slot. They'll move to the backfield. There's going to be a lot more pitch plays. I think we saw that in college. I haven't seen that many pitch plays in a while. They're going to try to find ways to get the ball and exploit the edge of a defense.
Well, I kind of figure they're already kind of, if you put it, they've already devalued linebackers.
Yeah.
Because we're going to a more of a nickel
hybrid.
Most teams don't have like 3 linebackers anymore, or unless they're running a 3-4, and then they're actually edge rushers, not really linebackers.
Edge is the position now, right? Like you see edge more than anything.
Yeah. But the point with the Jonathan Taylor, though, he's more of an exception, I think, because of the situation. They've got a rookie quarterback who's has no experience. So you need someone to lean on.
Right. Yeah, you need that.
And so it's kind of like, you're not paying Anthony Richardson a ton. So you could do like a 2 or 3 year contract with Jonathan Taylor extension, except for
Yeah.
Irsay was probably
Yeah.
drunk or something and pissed
Well, and
him off.
he's walking, right? Like he doesn't want to play for them anymore.
Oh yeah, because of what Irsay said.
Right.
But I mean, the problem is if running backs want to get so butthurt about this, how about if you get your second contract, you actually earn it?
Right.
Ezekiel Elliott, you got your second contract, you sucked. Le'Veon Bell, you went to the Jets, you got your second contract, you sucked. So this is why running backs aren't getting paid, because they're getting the next contract and then they're like worthless.
It's like the WNBA equal pay. Hey, show your value, right?
Yeah.
We got next.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. I just like to bring up a lot of things that are being said. But yeah, I mean, I think the running backs at some point you got to realize that you're not the primary position anymore. You're replaceable by two average backs when you're a good back, and you probably get more durability and carries out of them. Splitting those up.
It all started in Denver with Shanahan when he started the zone blocking scheme, and then it was like, oh, we could put any running back in here
Right.
and they'll get 1,000 yards.
All you got to do is just run through the hole, right?
Yeah. And then look at his son before McCaffrey, what you had like a revolving door running backs that were doing good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough one for running backs because there's a lot of good that I think are great players, and it may just not be the league for them anymore.
Chiefs drafted
Yeah,
there in the 7th round and won a Super
yeah,
Bowl. So
right.
it's
Well, and there's that big list of all the last Super Bowl winners. Most, not, almost barely any of them had a top tier running back, especially paid.
right.
You know, none of them were being paid of that
I mean,
list
you
for the
look at
last 10 years.
the Patriots dynasty, what Corey Dillon was the only top back they ever had.
Right. I mean, he wasn't top back by the time he went there.
Yeah.
Like he was top back in Cincinnati, but by the time he went to the
Yeah.
Patriots, he was on the way down. All right, so let's get into some college football. I want to talk a little college football just because we're starting this month. College football week starts in the end of the month, and a couple things I want to talk about. Let's first look about like teams, right? What are some of the teams you guys see? You know, teams to watch, teams maybe growing. Like we'll just use Georgia as the first example. Can Georgia sustain what they've done for the last 2 years with all the people they lost? Georgia will probably come out the preseason number one. Are they still the team to watch?
How someone beats them.
Yeah.
I think the problem is this year, it's if you look at it, the the 4 teams, well, 3 of the 4 teams plus Alabama are all starting new quarterbacks, right?
Right.
So we don't know what we're going to get from Ohio State or TCU or Georgia or Alabama, right? Because they all have newest quarterbacks.
Right. Well, but so on Ohio State's defense, and maybe we'll talk about him a little bit later, but their running back is really solid. So even though, yeah, CJ Stroud left, they're bringing back a running back that I think's a top running back in
Mhm.
the NCAA.
Well, and the number 1 receiver.
Yeah, well, yeah, we were talking players. Well, that's separate, but I'm saying you lose a quarterback a little bit, but when you bring in that strong of a running back, I think that's an advantage. So when I see Ohio State, I still see them as a top tier team.
Yeah, I mean it's looking at quarterbacks that might start. I mean, Devin Brown, most likely Kyle McCord, but I mean, they still really haven't decided on a start. Alabama's kind of in the same situation too.
Right.
They got two guys. One of them's going to start, but it's just Carson Beck's going to start for Georgia. He's been a backup for a while, so that's there's a lot of unknowns. Penn State's going to go with Drew Aller over their starter from last year, so they're going to start Aller. He's a sophomore,
but they were kind of splitting, weren't they? Anyway,
they were split at the end of the year. Yeah,
right.
So,
So does that give like a team like USC a big advantage to bring back a guy like Caleb Williams?
Sort of, except for I know we'll probably get into it, but the Pac-12 has a bunch of returning quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, as an example, I'm not saying and specifically USC is better, but any team like who's another one that's bringing back a good quarterback? Texas, or
Eller,
yeah. So does that give
Michigan,
those type
right?
of teams? Yeah, does that give those type of teams more of an advantage versus, say, bringing back a lot of other good players, maybe a good defense, maybe a couple good running backs? How big is the advantage of bringing back a good quarterback in the NCAA?
I don't think. Well, this year we were looking at the schedule. If you had to play a top team in the first few weeks, maybe it would be a lot bigger to have an experienced quarterback. But all these teams are playing lots of cupcakes, so you can't ease them in.
Yeah, you're getting more reps in before you play your hard games. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I could see McCarthy having a really big year for Michigan. I think it is an advantage for a team like Michigan, especially when you have two teams, your two rivals. They're breaking in new quarterbacks.
Let's talk about Michigan. Talk about Michigan for a second with Corum and him coming back, right? Does that put Michigan in the top, maybe 4, 3, 2? Like where do you put Michigan?
I see them 2 or 3 at this point. I see like 3 Big Ten teams maybe in the top 6 and 7. So you got Penn State's going to be right up there.
Right. So Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Yeah, I like Michigan's chances because of what they're returning. I think that's a team to watch. You like Derek said, you have to look at Georgia because till you lose, right? Till somebody beats you, you're still at the top. But I think Michigan looks really good. I like I think Mississippi coming in, even in a tough SEC with a really good running back, looks pretty tough.
Yeah, Dart's good quarterback.
And they got a solid quarterback.
I think Dart's going to have a big year. They could be a sleeper as well as Tennessee. Milton is just got a freaking cannon for an arm.
So I like if USC can make their way through the Pac-12, which is going to be tough. Washington, Oregon State, which I think is a sleeper
because they got Clemson's quarterback.
DJ
or whatever. Yeah, from
DJ
Clemson.
Long last name.
Yeah, DJ blah blah blah.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
But also they have a quarterback controversy because he may not even be the starter.
He might not, but but I think he's going to play.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing when Clemson brings in a star quarterback to a transfer portal and he may not be start. That means you got a good guy start, and they have one of the best receivers, in the country too. So Oregon State, I think, is a sleeper in the Pac-12.
I think they'll be top 15 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be they're going to be ranked here in at least in the top 20.
And then I think Texas comes back strong. I think Texas is a good team. Obviously, we talk about Michigan, Ohio State. What about the SEC? SEC is always going to be good, right? But when you look at their teams top to bottom, I don't know that they're as good as they've been in past years.
No, I think you've got your top is still going to be good. It's going to be Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, and those are going to be your top 4.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to get out of Florida.
Right.
And then
the big unknown.
Texas A&M doesn't look great. They have a couple of good players, but I don't know how great they'll be.
Kentucky will take a step back.
So let's just talk about players in general. So forget about teams in a second. Obviously, I mean, if you don't have Marvin Harrison Jr. as your number 1 player, I think you're crazy. I think he's top player right now in college football.
Yeah.
What Caleb Williams, obviously, Drake May, those are some good players. Kool-Aid. Can't forget Kool-Aid down in Alabama.
McGinstry, yeah.
The top corners.
I'm going to tell you one that's up there with Marvin Harrison Jr. for top receiver, but he's a tight end, and that's Brock Bowers.
Oh, I don't, because he's a tight end, I don't think he goes 1, 2, or 3, but I would put him maybe 4 or 5. But yeah, as far as overall talent, he's close for me with Harrison Jr. Like if you're just top to bottom, especially if you need a tight end, like if you really need a tight end, that's one of the best picks you can make.
Yeah, and for me, it's being a Raider fan. It's like I'm looking just all quarterbacks. This is all I care about. It's like let's see what Caleb does. What's Drake May, Penix?
Well, what about Frank Gore Jr.? Come on, Frank Gore Jr. Man,
dude. What about the Clemson linebacker?
Jeremiah Trotter.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Dude, he's solid. He's solid, dude. I was watching some of his stuff. Man, he's good.
Well, this might be the year Clemson comes back.
So you brought up Penix. I want to talk about that for a second. You think how close is Penix, if not as good as Caleb Williams and Drake May?
Well, I feel like Caleb Williams is number 1 because he's the most ready to go. Drake May has probably the most talent, but you just don't know what you're going to get with him.
Right.
And then Penix is probably your 3rd choice, but I think he's a little lower.
Yeah. So here's my feeling on Penix, and I think you're right. Right. I think that's 100% accurate. Is that Caleb Williams has to be the most NFL ready guy. But I believe Penix is the most accurate. The guy throws some dots. Like if you're looking for a guy to throw it in between zones and make the good reads, I think Penix is really good.
When they played Oregon last year, that touchdown pass he threw a 40-yard dart out. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, now, does he struggle with some throws? Of course he does. He's a left-handed quarterback. That's all there's to it.
Yeah. It's like a handicap.
But he really does have some arm strength.
Yeah. And accuracy with it though. That's the thing. Like when you combine accuracy and arm strength, it's very dangerous, especially in the NFL. Because the separation that happens in the NFL is very different. Mm-hmm. And when you're on time in the NFL, say like Aaron Rodgers, you get a lot of yards, you throw a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so I think Penix, to me, I don't think you get a lot less with him by taking him 3rd in the quarterback race. And I think that makes Washington a very tough team. So
where do you rate Quinn Ewers?
I haven't seen a ton on him. I was just reading about it. And his bio or whatever you want to call it, his ratings and everything the analysts say, it looks good.
Well, and he's holding Arch back, so
right.
Yeah,
I'm not look. So I already like Texas. I think Texas has a good shot to win a lot of games
until next year.
Yeah, but I am not an Arch Manning fan. I've watched a couple games in their where they're playing each other, their scrimmage games. He does not look good. But I got to admit, most of my focus on Texas the last couple of years has been Bijan and
Roshan.
Roshan. Yeah, so I haven't spent a lot of time studying him, but the analysts like him. So
Years for last year when they played Alabama, and Texas says that, so like if Ewers didn't go down, they pretty like Texas was going to win that game.
right,
He got hurt, and that's what they've been saying all year. I mean, they're going to play early in the season, but this time they got to go to Alabama.
the problem with Texas is you just lost two of probably the top 5 running backs in the college football last year.
I know they've been recruiting.
Yeah, but they're Texas.
They just bring him in.
They get Texas players. They should get another running back.
You want to play for Texas? Like, okay. You want to go to school in Austin? I guess.
Yeah, you're a 5-star.
Let me think about
a 6A team. Like they're, I mean, I think Texas has 6A, right?
No.
But yeah, they're
10A.
They have like 10A. No, it's like 10A.
So teams wise, players wise, not going there. Is there any games? I know it's hard to look at the whole schedule, but are there any games that stuck out? And as you guys think about that, for me, when I was looking at this, the beginning half of college football sucks. I'm sorry to say this for our listeners, especially college football fans, but man, it was tough finding some good games. I might actually enjoy watching a couple of the Colorado games early. I like to see how they do against Nebraska. I like to see how they do against Oregon. I think because Colorado has a lot of hype around them right now. So
they got a target on them too.
There are a couple games I looked at where I was like, oh, those could be interesting. But there wasn't a lot of first half games.
I think 2 sleepers. I think the one game that jumps out at me is first week of the season. It's going to be probably the biggest game, and it's Florida State LSU.
Right.
Because there's a lot of hype around Florida State. Travis is back. He threw for 3,000 yards last year. He had 24.
And they have that really good receiver too.
Yeah, they got some weapons. They're looking like they used to look. So, and then LSU, Daniels looked great last year. I think LSU, they have to go to Alabama and play them later in the year. But, if Alabama doesn't get their quarterback situation, they don't get the guy that, they want or that's going to give them put up some points. I think LSU can put up some points. I think Florida State, LSU, that's going to tell a lot about maybe one of those teams challenging to get a playoff berth.
Yeah, that's a big win for either of them, especially to start the season, right? It gets you momentum. It's also against a highly ranked, or maybe highly ranked, maybe not. We'll see what the rankings come out with.
And the ACC's up for grabs. I mean, Clemson's not what they used to be. That's all there's.
No.
Clemson. And
Clemson's got the defense. They got a good running back. I don't know that they are close to where they've been over the last 5-10 years. I think, but there's a lot of soft kind of schedules. We were talking about this earlier. Not a lot of good out of conference games.
No.
So we may be looking at like a second half of the year, rivalry games coming into conference championships, things like that, to where college football might really be decided very late in the year.
I mean, when Ohio State and Notre Dame is one of the games that people are looking forward to,
right?
Everybody just want to watch Ohio State just mop up Notre Dame on national television.
Right.
Like pretty much everybody does to Notre Dame on national television and big games. It's just
So let's talk about preseason, and we'll get off college football in a second. But just talking about preseason rankings, like who do you guys see in your top 5? Or let's do it collaboratively. Like let's do it as a group. Like number 1 has to be Georgia, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You guys disagree with that? Like, would they put anyone but Georgia number one?
No,
right.
they got backups for backups for backups. I mean,
right.
it's just they are just
and then
stacking first round, second round.
Well,
picks.
yeah, you still got Brock coming back. Your defense is solid. You got a good running back. I mean, you got a quarterback who got a little experience. I don't see how you could take the back-to-back national championship team and not put them at number one.
No.
Right. Number two, is that got to be Michigan?
It'd have to be just because they have the quarterback and running back,
right.
combo back.
Yeah, and Corum will lead the league in rushing. Unless he gets hurt, or the nation in rushing. I don't see Corum not leading the nation in rushing if he stays healthy the whole time. I think it's impossible.
Yeah, without their line is always going to be solid. It's so he's run. I mean, he's going to be running through through holes, and it's I see them overall being number two.
Okay, so we got Georgia, we got Michigan. So who does that leave at three? I think this was a little tougher choice as I was looking at this. What do you guys think before I say what I think?
I'm going to go Ohio State.
Yeah,
I just put Ohio State because they got Marvin Harrison Jr. If Alabama had like a big time superstar receiver, I'd put them three. But right now, I got Ohio State.
Well, and their running back, I can't remember, it was Kavion, something like that. Kavion, the guy that got hurt, who was having like the incredible year.
Yeah, notes.
But yeah, I also think, like I said, I didn't want to bring it up, but I think Ohio State takes number three too, right? So we got Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. I think it's a little tougher from here because now you got to think about like what the analyst or what the pollsters or whoever makes these decisions, like what do they feel?
Well, you always got to go Bama because Bama's always going to be up there.
That's the problem. Is like now you're just putting Alabama up there because it's Alabama, right?
Well, and they've got 5 stars for days also. So
right. Yeah, like every player who's replacing a player who left for the NFL is a top recruit. What do you think, Wes? You think Alabama at 4?
Yeah, I think to me it's between them and Penn State at this point. Penn State's loaded, and they're both sides of the line. They got backups, and so guy goes down. Supposedly, they got 4-star guys, 3-star guys that can step up. They say they're going to have probably 3 Butkus Award nominees on defense, linebacker position, and because Chops is in that, the edge rusher.
Right. And you got the best
DB is going to be as a first round pick.
You got the best corner, right?
So they're pretty.
It's hard not to put Alabama up there.
Yeah.
And the problem with Penn State, and it's not because Penn State's bad or anything, they're great, but they're in the same side as Ohio State and Michigan.
They got to go to Ohio State.
So it's not like they're going to be at the.
I can't put Penn State up there even in the preseason. I think Penn State may be top 10, maybe like that 10, 11 spot. I got them around there, but I don't have them top 5. I mean, surprisingly, I have USC at 5. I think that they're going to get the nod as the best Pac-12 team. And considering how good the Pac-12 is this year, you got to put a team up there. So my 5, because I have Alabama at 4 also, but I think you got to throw a Pac-12, and I think Penn or USC is the one to do it.
Well, they got to improve defensively. Their defense wasn't very good last year. I mean, they lost to Tulane in the bowl game. That's just they've lost to Tulane. I mean,
there's something about when you have the number 1 pick in the draft on your team. Like you get a lot of love.
And
And I'm not saying they're gonna win at all. Like I'm not advocating for USC. I'm saying that when these preseason rankings come out, I think they're gonna put USC up there.
when you have one of the, I mean, Lincoln Riley, and it's been said that he's designed a lot of these offenses that people are running, not just in college,
Right.
but in the NFL. People go to him to look at, hey, what's the new formation? What, it's all the it's again, it's the spaceball thing. It's like he's got this perfect. So you match that with the best quarterback in college football and the son of Jerry Rice at receiver.
Right. I
It
mean,
is a lethal combination. I would
there's some good stuff happening, but their defense is trash. Like you got to
well,
admit,
it was
That's the
bad
Pac-12
last year. Does it improve? That's the big
yeah,
question. They
right.
got to be better. They got
They have to.
anything's
They
better
have
than
to get
last
better.
year. I mean, trust me, that was
So,
just
who do you guys have at 5?
I think Wes had Penn State,
yeah, Penn
or,
State.
but I don't know. I guess USC by default, because I could go USC, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Oregon, one of them
But
could
no,
be
like
there.
TCU.
Well, they're replacing Max Dugan. I mean,
Right.
pretty tough to do.
I think TCU's top 10, but yeah, you're
No,
replacing.
no
You got to play.
SEC teams like what
Will
LSU?
be
Like
LSU, Florida
right,
State might be up there too, because they're an
right,
ACC team.
right,
Yeah, I basically got LSU like at 6.
right.
Yeah, they're right. They're right there. Florida State's top 10.
I can put LSU up there. I think LSU they have the moxie, the clout, to get a
Yeah,
higher ranking.
physically they can match up with anybody in the
Right.
country, and they got a stud quarterback. Daniels is a dual threat quarterback. He can throw the ball, he can run the ball, which honestly, LSU in years past, you haven't seen a lot of that from them.
Right.
And so
And well,
they've always been solid on the lines. They got the biggest guys in college football on defense side almost every year. If their offense clicks, they could run the table and win the whole thing.
yeah,
It's just beating
I
Alabama.
agree. And I think LSU maybe deserves it more than USC. But again, I think there's something with that when you have the best player or the number one ranked player, going for the draft, like you get more respect, especially in preseason, right? Like we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
I
I
felt
think
like they were a better team last year though, and they
yeah, they
choked.
were. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of things that happened to USC last year.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, Caleb is a great athlete. He's not shy about telling everybody how great he is. But you know what? He runs around a lot.
He
Too
does.
much. And less is more at the quarterback position. And if he just kind of, I mean, of course he can run, but man, you don't want to run side to side so much. He does that a lot. He does make great plays, but if he becomes more disciplined, yes, they could be a lot more dangerous and they can make it in the playoff and do some damage.
Right, right.
But that defense has got to get better because you go to the playoff and you're going to play teams from the SEC. Good luck there with that. Well, you need a defense.
Yeah, I think that's what happens, right? You get an early big ranking, even if you win out or win a lot of games and get into the playoffs, like they get this like they're gobsmacked when they come in to play SEC teams, especially just because they're so much bigger and faster and stronger.
Yeah,
And
just
so it's tough for those teams, especially outside. I mean, even the Big Ten obviously cannot hang very well. Like, look at their record in the playoff.
although Ohio State's getting there, they
Right.
are very close to beating Georgia, but they've been building that program for years. They've been building up their lines to be able to compete with teams like Georgia and Alabama, and
But
they
then
are getting there. But
you go out last year, dude, and they got smashed by Michigan.
well, then they almost beat Georgia.
Right.
But again, I would
But
have liked
CJ
to see
Stroud's
him.
gone now, so
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, I think would be tough this year. Good to watch. Um, so yeah, I like that top five. I think there might be some other teams. I think Texas is dangerous. You know, Florida State thinks dangerous. Couple teams, like I said earlier, I think Oregon State, if they could come out of the Pac-12, they're going to come out with a lot of confidence. They had a good run last year, and their team just got better.
they're
That's a
just
team to
solid.
watch. I think Washington is a team to watch. I think Washington will be tough. The Oregon Washington game, I think, is going to be a huge game, like week 7 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's in Washington.
That's
So
a
they gotta
make or
be-
break for both those teams. I think. I think you're going to find that game being a big make or break game for both
Yeah.
of them.
and then I didn't get to bring up my game that I want to talk about, but opening week, Florida, Utah.
Florida,
Yeah.
Utah.
I
Is that
saw that.
again?
And yeah,
Didn't
that's
they
in
just
Utah.
play? Didn't they play last year?
Yeah, back to back. But that's the thing
Right.
is Florida was not very good,
Yeah.
and Utah was supposed to be the team of the Pac-12.
Right.
This could hurt the Pac-12 again if a not so good SEC team comes and goes into their own stadium and beats them.
Yeah. Utah took some hits though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking though. This one ranking has them 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll be top 15. I got Utah top 15.
Yeah, they got solid line. They
But
lost skill position
I
guys.
just
But
I don't have them competing at the playoff level though.
Well,
no, not quite.
Cam Rising's back. They've got their
Yeah. That's what I'm
quarterback.
not saying they didn't return good players.
So that's always a big thing about. Utah doesn't need good players though.
Yeah.
They play they're one of the only teams in the Pac-12 that play defense.
Right. They a great defense too.
But defense,
Very good
they
defense.
have great line play. Cam Rising, he's old school. Like I like
He's
the
a
way he
stud.
plays.
He's a stud.
But it's just the skill guys. What kind of skill guys they
Right.
lost? They lost quite a bit.
That's the problem I have when they go to play SEC teams or the faster teams. I have a problem with. I mean, that's the same problem I have with most Pac-12 teams.
Yeah.
You run into those SEC teams, especially. They're just so much bigger and faster and stronger. It's
they're
hard to
just as
compete.
fast, but they're 40 pounds heavier.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's like that's not not going to go well for you.
It's not even fair.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's wrap up college football because we got a couple of topics to get to, but and we'll talk more college football later for your listeners. Excited for college football, but I gotta admit I'm excited for the second half of college football more than the first half. So do better with your scheduling. That's all I gotta say.
Well,
All
they're
right.
going to the super conferences, which means they don't want any more non-conference games.
Right. Which will be fine, right? Because if you're playing the super conference, playing all conference, you're playing all top teams, right?
Yep.
It will get better once the playoff starts also, because then you're going to have 12 teams, and you can take a loss or two, and get into that top 12 if you
Right.
So you're going to probably have less cupcakes, and bigger earlier matchups.
Well, because you gotta win, you gotta beat the people in your conference, right? You gotta win you gotta win those conference games. So all right, so let's jump into movies. We love the movies topic. Pull this up here. We got we'll start with Tim Burton movies. So this was a good topic. I like this one. So we're going HSC podcast top 5 Tim Burton directed movies. And Derek, this is your topic, so why don't you lead us off?
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with one of his most mainstream movies, and that was Batman, the first Batman.
Great movie.
Yeah. I mean, so much good dialogue with the Joker and Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson. I mean, Jack Palance was great in that.
Right. But Jack Nicholson, dude, I love him in that movie. I also really thought that Michael Keaton did a great job.
Yeah,
So
it's those these young heads out here that all are like Heath
right,
Ledger, and now they're all
right.
saying Robert Pattinson's the best. I'm like, are you kidding me?
What?
Well, well, you even had what's his name?
It's not bad.
Affleck or Christian
Yo,
Bale?
well, I'm talking about
Or
Joker. I
we're
was talking
talking
about
Jokers?
Joaquin Phoenix,
Yeah, Walking
Joaquin
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I don't care. I love Heath Ledger. I think he did a great job in the Dark Knight. I still think Jack Nicholson's the best Joker.
I know that's the thing, is you can appreciate what Heath Ledger did, and I do. He did a great job, but I still think Jack Nicholson's the best. And that's also the thing is people got to realize the constraints people had back in the 80s
Yeah.
compared to later. It's like you couldn't do certain things back then that you could do now. You could be darker, and
Well, yeah, it's the you go from the darkness of the 70s and then 80s, like, all right, I mean, if it would have been made in the 70s, can you imagine how dark Batman would have been?
Yeah, you might have had a whole different movie, that's for
They're
sure.
like Taxi Driver Batman.
All right, Wes, what do you got at 5?
Oh, I gotta go with Alice in Wonderland.
Do you have to?
I do. I just
I
it's a
don't
movie.
I don't I
It's
don't
just
think it's terrible, but please, like, let us know.
it's
Like,
it's 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 like a movie. Like, I just like to watch the cinematography, and I never really
Jesus,
watched
Wes.
the Alice in Wonderland as a kid. So I watch it, and
Right.
it helps me go to sleep. So
Gives you
gotta go with Alice.
perspective on what Alice in Wonderland it should be. I don't think it's terrible, but I mean that's a stretch too.
Johnny Depp's good.
Johnny Depp's always good. You,
Yeah.
I do love some Johnny Depp movies. But that's cool. That's cool if you want to throw an Alice in Wonderland in there. I've thrown in some, so I can't be mad at you. I can be a little bit mad, but so I have 5. I got Mars Attacks because it's just so good. It's obviously not one of the greatest movies you'll ever see, but it's funny. It's fun to watch. It's well directed, and it has a good story on like a fear that a lot of people have, and it's soft, it's light, put some comedy in there, and the acting is phenomenal. And there's so many good people in the movie, and that's what makes
so,
it great for me. So yeah, like tons, right? But I mean, obviously, back to Jack Nicholson, like
ooh.
yeah, he plays a great part in that. I love the movie. I don't. It's not an Academy Award winner, but it's definitely top 5. All right, Wes, what do you got at 4?
Edward Scissorhands movie.
I can deal
I
with
don't
that.
know. I used to watch it all the time when I was a kid. I mean, Johnny Depp's just great in the movie. It's like the ultimate movie where it's not about what's said. It's the expressions that he has through the whole
Right.
movie. Yeah, I just enjoy the movie. I've always liked it as kids.
I don't have it
I
in my top 5. It's a little lower, but for me, I always think of Vincent Price at the very beginning. And it's just kind of a nice homage to see him one last time doing a movie.
yeah.
No.
I mean, I think Depp, and there's a lot. Obviously, Tim Burton and Depp done so many movies. I think he does a good job of portraying the part, which for me, it's not like the most exciting or like watchable movie, but it is one of those where you're like he encapsulated what they were trying to get out of the movie. And how do you whack off? Like you got scissors for hands. Seems kind of dangerous.
How do you like the whole thing where by that time Anthony Michael Hall became the jock, the jerk jock, right?
Right. That's a big change for him. I just don't know why. Like when I think about Edward Scissorhands, I'm like this guy's suffering. It's horrible.
No,
So go ahead,
no, wait a
Wes.
minute, Steve. I was like, no, that wasn't a line in the movie.
No, it wasn't a line in the movie. It's painful to watch for that reason.
I was like thinking to myself, I don't remember that in the movie, man. That would be funny though.
Yeah. See, that's what I'd put in the movie. Maybe that's why I'm not
That's
making
the
movies.
Steve version. That's the
Yeah.
edited version. The big box version.
Number 4. Won't spend a lot of time on my number 4 because Derek set it up 5. I got Batman. I think Keaton does a great job. I think Burton did a great job directing it. I think it was a great take on putting Batman back on the map at that time. So it was the start of a long Batman series of everything, right? It went from all different people to all different directors, and we're still in Batman days. I think that was for me, it brought it back to the mass. Yeah. And I enjoy it. So I got Batman 4.
My number 4 is another Michael Keaton movie, and that's Beetlejuice.
Oh my gosh. Gotta love Beetlejuice.
Which they're making a sequel to now. But yes, just Beetlejuice. And it's not even the guy, Beetlejuice. I mean, Michael Keaton's great in it too, but it's everyone else in it is awesome also. Like Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, and
everybody in that movie does well.
Jeffrey Jones. Yeah. Robert Goulet.
Yeah. And the story is so unique too. It's great. Number 3, it's me. I got Big Fish at number 3. I think again, when you talk about uniqueness, it's a very unique movie. It's heartwarming and exciting and interesting to watch, all in one. And good actors, great directing. It could have been closer to my top 3 or my top 2, to be honest with you. It's one of my favorite movies. So if you haven't seen Big Fish, watch it. But
Ewan McGregor's great in that.
I mean, Ewan McGregor is great in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I think he does really well in this movie.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Big Fish?
No,
Jeez,
come on, Wes.
No.
You can't rate movies if you haven't seen them.
No, I can't. There's a few of these I haven't seen.
Derek, what do you got at 3?
My number 3 has already been said. It's Mars Attacks. I have a great story. I was in Vegas one year when I was like 14. So, in Vegas, when you're that age, it sucks.
Yeah, circus.
Yeah, but my parents and everything wanted to go to a concert. Back then they actually had lounge singer type stuff. And it was a choice between Paul Anka and Tom Jones. And I was pro Tom Jones. Yeah. And my mom goes, oh, Tom Jones has kind of lost it. We're going to go see Paul Anka. Boo. So in my teenage rage, I was like, I'm not going. I'm mad. So I sat at home and sat in the hotel. They got me pizza and I watched Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. But then just a few years later, who do you see on the big screen but Tom Jones, hero of Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks. That's so good. I love Tom Jones. And that's what I like about Mars Attacks. There's so many people in it. Played so many different roles.
Yeah,
It's
Jack
definitely why I
Nicholson's
had
the
there.
president and then the
Right.
seedy casino owner.
He's the president. Mars Attacks is great. Gotta love that. Number 3, Wes.
Already said it's been Batman.
Yeah.
Just the way that it's he brings Batman just into it's almost like reading the comics in a sense.
Yeah, it
And
was.
that's what I like about it. No.
Well, and the Batmobile, and then the way Michael Keaton played the part, I feel like he almost invented that deep voice, coming, and everybody was doing it later. But you're right, like, yeah, I think he kind of like brought that role to a different level. So can't be mad at Batman. All right, number 2. Get up to the top, Derek.
This one actually brings a tear to my almost because RIP. My number 2 is Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, I knew you were gonna do it.
Rest in peace.
This movie is one of my favorite movies of all time because it's so ridiculous.
Dude, I know,
It's
and
great.
I love it.
It's great because it's so ridiculous comedy, it has ridiculous, but then it also has so much dry humor in it too. It's
Yeah.
just so great. It's like when he's like, Toddy, I'm in Texas, and she's like, no, you're on. He's like, hey, listen, the stars shine.
Stars shine bright, big at night,
Or my
deep in the
favorite is when
heart of Texas.
he's knocked out and he wakes up and they're like, do you know your name? And I'm like, I don't remember. Do you know where you're at? I don't remember. What do you remember? The Alamo.
I remember the
You're
Alamo.
like, yeehaw.
It is. I mean, I must have seen that movie 100, maybe more times.
Yeah.
It's not in my top 5, but it's one of the most memorable movies ever.
And then it's Tim Burton's first directorial debut.
Well, and it's like, dude, you're just like chasing his bike. Dude, there's so much good stuff about that. And it is sad that he passed away.
Yeah.
So that's a
70.
good look. That's
I
good
feel like
recognition.
when you get to our age, you're like 70 is young.
It's not that far away, dude. It'll be here before we know it. All right, Wes, what do you got too?
Beetlejuice. I've seen it way too many times, but I mean, it's just it's eerie but funny, and it's just the cast is great. Yeah, I mean, I've probably seen it like 40 times. I mean, it's just like
Right.
we had a VHS, like in nothing. I mean, back then we only had like 10 VHS tapes. One of them was Beetlejuice. So
I mean, Dale.
yeah,
We say no. We say no. I mean, come on. Hey, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. That's classic. It's
yeah.
classic. You gotta love it. I love Beetlejuice, so I'll agree with that. I got one that most people won't agree with. This is a personal favorite, and this is Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And I know it didn't get the best reviews, but you know what? You people don't know how to review movies, so screw you. Like, you got Wahlberg, which I do love Wahlberg, but at the same time, I thought it was a great take on a more modern version of what Planet of the Apes would look like now. And I think they played it out well. I think the plot was good, the finish was good, the acting was mediocre to good. But I don't need great acting when I have a good movie for me. So even with the bad reviews, I put Planet of the Apes up there as a must watch. Number 2.
There's bad reviews for The Last Boy Scout too, and that's an
That's an awesome movie.
They call that like the worst movie ever. Like, how can you call that the worst movie after all these
Yeah.
movies? Like, There's a lot
I
of
mean,
bad movies.
can't put anything with Bruce Willis that
Come
low.
on.
Well, I think they'd say Hudson Hawk was one of the worst movies
Oh, I
ever.
love
They
Hudson
did.
Hawk,
I know,
dude.
I
Hudson
do.
Hawk's
I
one of
love
my
Hudson Hawk
favorite
too, but
movies, dude. Like, what better way to rob things than do it by the number of minutes and seconds in songs?
that's
Yeah.
perfect,
All right, Wes. Number one.
You guys already said it. Mars Attacks.
Number one, Mars Attacks. I love it.
It's like it's just the cast is great. It's just a fun movie. It's like it's not. I mean, they used to make movies like that in the 50s, and then now they don't. Seems like movies aren't that fun, but it's almost like the old rally movies where they have like 50 famous people in it. You know,
Right. There's
and
so many, right? And they're
yeah,
playing small parts.
yeah,
Some
they're
are
getting
playing
killed
different
off,
parts.
and
Yeah, they're dying, and they're playing parts that they don't normally play.
yeah.
Like that's. I mean, I do love Mars Attacks. So
and the Martians are hilarious.
dude, the Martians are so hilarious. I can't I can't argue with it being number one. So I think that's a good pick. My number one's been said already. It's Beetlejuice. I've seen Beetlejuice more times than I can count most movies. As a kid, there's no better movie than it wasn't really scary, but it was about like ghosts and different things, and then it was funny. And dude, the way that Michael Keaton plays that part is just hilarious. It cracks me up. So I love Beetlejuice. I just don't think there's a better Tim Burton movie. So I'm taking it. I'm taking Beetlejuice, number one.
I need water for
What
There
do you
is a
got, Derek?
there is a better Tim Burton movie, and it
It's
hasn't
Ed
been said
Wood.
yet.
It's
Yes,
Ed
it is.
Wood.
That's right. It's Ed
I
Wood.
know it was Ed Wood. I already knew it was Ed Wood.
Oh, Ed Wood.
And Martin Landau, Best Supporting Actor Oscar for playing Bela Lugosi. That movie, for me, is the epitome of dry humor movie.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And
It
just
is.
like Bill Murray in it is great. And yeah, it's Johnny Depp. Of course, it couldn't be made today because of some of the stuff.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But
I knew 100% before we even the topic when as soon as the topic came up, I was like, Ed Wood number one for Derek.
though actually I'd been switching. I'd rotated Mars Attacks and Pee-wee's Big Adventure up to one, and it was a fluid. Hey, I've got the poster still somewhere of Ed Wood.
Right.
Ed Wood would have been in my top probably three, but I haven't seen it in like 6. I don't even remember a lot of it. Well, I remember watching it. I don't know if I had a few drinks, but I was rolling. I remember, but I haven't watched it since. I gotta watch it.
Yeah, this is the worst.
I'm not gonna lie. I took Ed Wood off of my top five because I knew it was gonna be Derek's number one. I told Holly that when I was taking it off my top five.
Yeah.
Well, because it is a great movie. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Great movie, and I could easily put it in my top five. I could easily put it number one. I think Ed Wood's a great movie.
And that movie was up for Best Picture, right?
Yeah.
It was one of his. I don't know how many of his movies have been up for Best Picture. I don't think too many.
So talking about some of his movies, as I was pulling these lists, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but how many times did like Nightmare Before Christmas get left off his list?
Well, technically, it's not his movie.
Right.
He didn't direct it. He was a producer, and I watched a documentary on it, and he hardly has anything to do with Nightmare Before Christmas. It's actually Danny Elfman that does most of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
but it's like he's all over the credits.
right, because he's the producer. So he
Right.
basically, it was his idea and stuff, and then he was doing, I forgot what other movie he was doing. Yeah, there's on that whatever that, that Netflix show that does a bunch of different movies, like little
Right.
series
Right.
about it.
Right.
Movies That Made Us. There's one about
Movies that
Nightmare
made
Before
us.
Christmas. It's
I'll have
like,
to watch that one.
because yeah, I would have put that in my top 5 if I hadn't have seen that. Well, that's one of my son's favorite movies.
Well,
He
and
wanted
then
Jack Skellington for Halloween.
I thought Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
There's
not as good as the
Frozen.
original though, so that's why you can't put it on the list.
Yeah, that's why
It's different than the original.
Right.
The problem I have is like I'm a Johnny Depp fan, so I like to see everything he's in. I did enjoy that. Sleepy Hollow didn't get great ratings. I enjoyed
I
that.
like
I
Sleepy
did.
Hollow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Sleepy Hollow. So there was quite a few on the list that you know I could have made it.
Batman Returns.
Right. Probably close to as good as the original Batman.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
good Tim Burton stuff. Like not as many movies as we historically have done top fives because it was kind of a shallow pool.
Mhm.
But good movies, and it was hard to choose like the difference between them. Like I had a hard time taking Pee-wee's Big Adventure off my list because that was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
And I
All
watched it
right.
today again.
Well, you got to. It's just I'll have to watch it here in the next few days because this is a little remembrance.
I almost
Mr.
brought up
Paul
like
Herman.
why don't we do a top 5 of Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah. Well, that's a short top 5.
That's a short. That's why I was like, I
That's
looked
why
at it. I was
this. Yes, this is the reason I did Tim Burton
Uh,
was because of Pee Wee, Paul Rubens. Because yeah, with you would only have what Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and then Cheech and Chong movie, what Back to the Beach, and he was what a waiter in Blues Brothers. Remember that? When you Yeah, just the end scene of Pee Wee's Big Adventure cracks me up every time where they make the movie about the movie, and James Brolin is P.W. Herman.
oh, dude, that's the best.
And
I
like
love that part.
he's the concierge, and he's like, paging Mr. Herman.
Right. It's like it reminds me of Get Shorty.
Yeah.
You know how they make the movie at the end of the
Yeah.
movie, and you're like, I've seen this before in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
James Brolin cracks me up in that too, just for a little bitty part, but
So, uh, of the night, I think our hardest topic that we're about to hit, which I can't believe we haven't hit somewhere around this topic before, considering what we all love. Like we're gonna go top 5 Star Wars characters, and Wes, you didn't necessarily specify movies, so really it's like all
no,
top
it's
5 Star Wars
I,
characters, right?
it's just your favorite
Yeah.
character. It's a it was I was like, why did I do this? This is brutal.
It was brutal, dude. My
Brutal.
list was huge.
yeah.
Brutal.
And then trying to eliminate the list,
Oh,
dude, so tough. So here we go. HSC podcast, top 5 Star Wars characters. Wes, what do you got at 5?
oh gosh, dude.
You brought this list on us, Wes. You got to
Yep.
go first.
The top 2 weren't hard. 3, 4, 5, brutal. because I gotta put him on here.
You're eliminating, yeah.
Gotta
Right.
put on Mace Windu. I gotta do it.
Wow. Number
Gotta do
5,
it.
Mace Windu.
And the reason why, it's probably because the movies he was in, you know, watching Attack of the Clones, or just in general. When I heard Samuel Jackson was going to do this role, I was like, how is this going to work?
Right.
I mean, Samuel L. Jackson,
He does a great job, though.
he does a great job. And that's the thing. It's like, am I talking about characters or am I just talking about the actors? But the character Mace Windu itself is badass.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it shows you how, when Yoda talks about anger, like, you think of him, he's an angry guy.
Yeah,
No,
it's hard
only when
hard
he
to separate
deals with
that.
bad guys, because when he deals with bad guys, he's badass. Attack of the Clones. I mean, you're watching the theater. I remember watching the theater, and I'm like, dude, this is like a 3 out of 10.
Right.
Until Mace Windu comes in with purple lightsaber, and then it went from like 12 out of 10 instantly in like 2 minutes. Like going down, and when he throws the cape off and it's smoking, you're like, oh, the movie just started. This
Right.
is badass. And then he just takes out Jango Fett, and then just how he takes out the Emperor. I love it when Anakin says, you know what? He's very powerful. You're going to need my help. He's like, whatever, man. Dude, I'm Mace Windu. I don't need anybody's help.
No,
I mean, the
dude, it is
Emperor
the
kills
best.
3 Jedis, and Mace handles them pretty easily.
It is the best when is that I think it's Clones, right? Where he does take Django. He just like rolls up and he's like, boom, done.
Done.
Like that, it's just legit, dude.
And you're just like, ooh.
Yeah, because you thought
cool.
there was gonna be some like cool fight scene about to happen, and it's just like done.
Yeah.
So I mean I do love that, but he was close. He wasn't my top 5. I got 5. I got the Mandalorian because he could be anywhere in the top 5. He could be number 1. I think number 1, it was a great series, but dude was so calm, collective, and like just a better version of Boba Fett.
Wes has to watch the series still.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
Oh,
dude.
I got to break down. And
It's on Plex. It's on Plex.
Yeah, really? I
Yeah.
can't access series on there.
Dude,
Maybe I can.
It's on Plex, dude. Go to the server. It's on there. Okay. Love the series, but I just like how legit he is. He's very smooth, very calm, collective. Like, I am the most badass dude in the universe. And I love the Mandalorian. Obviously, you can't go for me number 1, but I'll put him in the top 5.
Yeah, when Wes brought this topic, it was like, first you think of the classics, and then I'm like, oh my gosh,
right.
For you and me, Steve, we've seen all the cartoons,
right?
All the TV
all the
shows.
series, yeah.
And I'm like, oh man,
it's so many people.
But my number 5 is one that's been a badass from the first movie to the last movie, and that's R2-D2.
Oh, yes. Dude, how many times does R2-D2 save the day?
It's like every movie.
Like every movie.
Nah, yeah. It's like remember we went and watched The Phantom Menace, and
he's up there like flying around. They announced
R2's name in the movie, and everyone yelled. They're like, "Oh, R2!" I mean,
and then he came out and he's like the only droid that survived, and he got that hyper, and he's like looking at them like, what? And he's like, shoot.
Yeah.
So good, dude. Well, Derek just ruined my number 4. That's where I got R2-D2. Because, dude, legitimately, and almost all the first 6 movies, without R2-D2, they don't go the way they go.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. Like, you can't plug into the system to turn off the tracking system of the Death Star. You can't go out in space and hover around and, fix the broken thing, like, I mean, R2 is just the best. And he's like, it's like a boy and his droid is what the movie's originally about, right? And who's his droid?
Yeah.
R2D2.
Like,
So I got him at 4. Like, you gotta love it. I don't care if he didn't say a word the whole time.
But he's talking, and he's talking mad trash.
He is talking that trash. He's like, you guys are all idiots.
Yeah.
Well, step aside. I'll take it from here.
I don't think
All right.
C-3PO is making it any of our top 5s.
He's not.
Jar Jar was kind of right there, but
I'm a spoiler. CP3O is not in my top 5.
No.
Derek, what do you got it for?
My 4 is going to be surprising because of how early, but it's Han Solo at 4.
That is surprising. Because Han Solo's kind of the best.
He is the best, but he's only, in 4 movies. And yeah, but he is awesome. But I had to put him 4 because of the people ahead of him.
Well, and it's Harrison Ford.
Yeah. He is awesome. I love him. If it was before I watched all the cartoons and stuff, I probably would have him higher, but I got him at 4.
Nothing wrong with that. He's in your top 5. Gotta love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
All right, Wes, what do you got it for?
I got Luke Skywalker.
Oh, Luke. Good old Luke.
I mean, come on. Talk about the evolution of going from the biggest pussy ever to being a badass Jedi. I mean, remember we played the drinking game where
Yeah. How many times he whines?
Okay, we take shots every time he whines in the first one, and we're at 50 halfway through the movie. We're like, really? Stop whining, dude. Whine it everything.
But I want to go to Pasha Station to pick up some power converters.
I was like, stop. You're killing me. You're killing
You realize, like, he was like saved the universe, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, this is the guy that we got to depend on. This guy, really? Where do we not sign up? Give me somebody else.
Where's your skinny jeans?
Where's skinny jeans? And then the evolution goes to Empire Strikes Back.
So
You're like,
good.
oh, dude, good luck against Darth Vader, right? Yeah. Let's see how that. And that didn't go out. That didn't go too well for him. Loses the hand, and it comes back. Return of the Jedi. You're like, all right, looking pretty confident. Looks like he's gonna stop whining, which he did. And the ending of Return of the Jedi is just epic.
Right.
And then Ryan Johnson ruined him.
He what?
And then Ryan Johnson ruined him.
Yeah.
Well, he's so old.
But
okay.
He was all right in the movie, but he just didn't have a chance in that movie.
No,
it's like he couldn't save that movie. Nobody could save that movie.
He was so legit in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like the swagger that he had in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not Mark Hamill himself, but the actual Luke, the role was just legit, dude.
When he goes to Jabba's palace and he's like, "You're gonna give me my guys. I don't care who got a bunch of people around me."
He's like, "No matter. I'll take on the Rancor."
Yeah, but even when he talks to the Emperor, he's like, "Look, soon I'm gonna be dead, and you're gonna be dead with me." Like he really thought that. He really thought he's gonna go there to die, and he's prepared to die.
Yeah.
And so that's what was badass about it.
So I didn't have him in my top 5, but it's a good argument for it. But he was such a fucking pussy. Like, did so bad. All right. Let's see. So Wes, that was
4.
4. Derek, you got 3.
My number 3, and it's probably one of Wes's tops, is the Emperor. I got the Emperor at 30.
Whoa. I do like the Emperor.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Everything is going according to plan.
Well, what I love about the Emperor is because of the first 3 movies,
Mm-hmm.
and then I actually enjoy him or not the first 3, the 4, 5, 6, right?
The
I enjoy
prequel
him.
movies.
Then you go back, right?
Yeah.
And then those ones you still like really like him as Palpatine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Very.
you got the Emperor in 4, 5, 6, but then you've got Palpatine. Well, you don't really have him in 4, but you
Just 5 and 6, and then
yeah, it's 5 and 6. But yeah, when he's in the first movies too, like I think it plays an additional role into like how cool he is. So I like that. I can dig the Emperor. I think I he was in my top 7, which is kind of funny. Is spoiler, I eliminated the Emperor and Darth Vader in 7, 6.
I'm kind of curious here. Steve. I mean, this is
Wes, what do you got at
no,
3?
there's nothing, I'm kind of liking Derek's situation here and a little low. But it's Han Solo. I mean, but still, freaking Han Solo. I mean, I just, of course, I love him in the first one, but Empire Strikes Back, the asteroid scene is my favorite, one of my favorite
Oh,
scenes
so
of all
good.
time. Talk about movie magic. They could never make that now. They don't even know how to
Right.
think of that nowadays. It was just perfect. Less is more. Like, okay, I gotta fly a spaceship through an asteroid field. He's like, oh, I kind of never really done
Dude,
this before, but the swagger's there, but he's like, I might have just overdone myself here.
dude, the Hoth scene, he
Oh yeah,
literally cuts open a tauntaun
dude,
and puts Luke inside of it.
he saves Luke by putting him in a tong, a
Dude, it's so
light.
good.
And
It's so good.
he's like, what does he do for a friend? He's like, I'm not gonna leave him out in the freaking cold
Yeah.
to die. What do? You go out there, And then the ending when Darth Vader and Han are like, when they first meet, I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, oh my god, it's Han Solo against Darth Vader. This is gonna be awesome. No, overdone. Like, and I love it how Han automatically pulls out his blaster because that's exactly what Han Solo
Yeah.
does. He's like, you know what? I'll just shoot you. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe he has like bulletproof blaster or blaster proof. It's like, do you ever think of that? It's like, no, I'll just use the force.
Yeah. He's like,
and
here's
he's
the
like,
hand.
oh, maybe this force thing does exist now, right? Like Obi-Wan saying.
I mean,
But
dude, I got Han at number 3 also.
Yeah.
So I'll continue with that. Empire Strikes Back, Han is the best. Like, I don't think you better. But the Han movie is actually pretty good too.
Yeah.
So I actually really enjoyed that, and you learn a little bit more about him.
He
But
shoots first.
even in number 4, when he comes back and shoots Darth Vader when he's trying to shoot Luke to blow up the Death Star, dude. And in New Hope, dude, it's still great, right? Because Han returns, it's not about the money anymore.
But yeah, it's
And
only kind of about the money, but still about the money. But
I
he's
mean,
like, yeah,
anybody who's called a nerf herder,
yeah,
like
no,
Scruffy looking.
a
scruffy looking
scoundrel.
nerf herder, scruffy
Remember
looking nerf herder,
scoundrel? I like the sound of that.
and yeah, so I got Han there. I love Han at 3. So fun to watch. All right, number 2. Here we go. Wes, what do you got? Number 2 Star Wars characters.
Well, it's kind of predictable. I got to go with Yoda. Yoda's my number 2.
Mm.
I mean, him in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, just so many lines. I mean, what's our favorite line? Too old. He's too old for
Too
training.
old.
And but
Yeah, dude. But then he
just
comes back in other movies, dude, and like so good when it's like the younger Yoda.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just I mean, he makes Attack of the Clones, of course, the lightsaber scene, but it's the
Right.
things that he says in Empire. Like, I mean, it should be required viewing in school. The things he said. It's like he really delves into the fear thing because it is so true. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to
Yeah.
hate. Hate leads to suffering. And I
It's a
even
good
liked him
good
in
Yoda.
the last. He's the only good part about the Last Jedi is him appearing.
Right.
That was hilarious. He's like, I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna set this on fire. And he's like, maybe I shouldn't. And Yoda's like, you know what? I'll do it. It doesn't really matter. And he teaches Luke a lesson. And the lesson is, you know what? It doesn't matter what the sacred text and all this stuff. It's like it's it's old, He sets it on fire. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
Yoda.
so good. The Palpatine Yoda fight scene in the Senate, dude,
Yeah,
that's so good.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I love that scene.
Failed I have. Let's go into hiding.
And so I got Yoda too as well. So everything that you just said, like it just he's so iconic in the series. Um, but the best part of Yoda is when he dies and he's just like, I'm just too tired to talk to you anymore. Like, I'm
You've been
so
a pain in
tired.
my butt. I'm just
I'm
gonna go.
so tired of talking to you. I'm just gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but you also like throughout the different episodes and things, you like see how amazing he is. But um, obviously he teaches Luke in like pulling things up out of the swamp, and like Yoda's just amazing, and he's just this little green dude, which is awesome. So it kind of gives you that you don't know what everyone's made of, right? Like your eyes can play tricks on you, and that's what I like about Yoda. All right, Derek, what do you got too?
Yoda. And
Everybody's got Yoda too.
but then because like you've said, but also in Clone Wars, the TV, the cartoon, like the
Mm,
first episode is him taking out like a whole
right,
battalion, and he like
right.
teaching the clone, taking out all the robots and teaching the clones, oh, this is, you don't have to be gun ho, you just be smart. And other thing is my Yoda yes or no doll is one of the coolest things ever because it's
Trust me,
never been
girls will
wrong.
like Yoda. It was the best.
Never been wrong, dude. Never
It's
been
like
wrong.
it's like it's like Wes can't talk to girls.
Well,
Here, we'll just put Yoda and pull the
there,
string. It's like we'll let Yoda talk, and they're like,
does
oh my god. It's
does
like, yeah.
Yoda think that we should go to Vegas for the bachelor party?
Oh,
I'll have
totally. Like we're
I'll go and get him a little later.
Yeah.
I'll check him tomorrow.
You better let us know. But yeah, that so yeah, I did watch the that animated series with him in that part, dude, and it's amazing when you watch him take out like battalions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's ridiculous. But he's equally as good in like the one-on-one scenes.
Yeah.
Or even the one where he's in with at Chewbacca's planet.
Yeah. My
And
son
he's like,
loves that because he's like, he just beheaded those clone troopers.
right. Right. Because he didn't even know. He's just like
I'm
boom,
not
boom.
gonna
And
sneak up on Yoda. Come
yeah,
on.
and then he's like,
You killed like all the Jedi, but you're not gonna kill Yoda.
no, he's like, you know what, Chewbacca, it's over.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. Let's get out of here. So good stuff. Number one. Here we go. Number one Star Wars character. I have Obi-Wan, specifically Ewan McGregor, because dude, This guy makes the series at the beginning, the new ones, and his series he did on his own was awesome. But when you watch him from 1, 2 to 3, I think he's so badass, dude. Like he grows into this like guy. You're like, that's why he's gonna kill Anakin, right? He's gonna win, dude, because he's just legit, dude. Yeah, I'm sure he kills Darth Vader later, but he could have just like killed him anytime he wanted to. He kills Darth Maul.
Yeah.
He kills Anakin. He kills
Twice.
What's his name with the General Grievous,
Grievous.
dude. Like, dude, Obi-Wan is legit, dude. Like he kills everybody. Nobody kills Obi-Wan. Like until the day he wants to die.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm out. Done.
All right.
Drop the
He's like, go ahead. So I got
Become more powerful than you can ever imagine.
right. I got Obi-Wan Ewan McGregor, number 1.
Me too.
Jeez.
Oh my god.
I mean, because if you take into, yes, Ewan McGregor was the best, but then you take into Clone Wars and
Right.
Rebels and in his TV show,
Because he's there always, right? Yeah, he's there always.
And he's just so kind of like, the part where the third movie in the prequels, what was it? What is that one called?
Return of the
Can't even
Sith.
think. Yes.
Yeah.
Where he's like looking and he's surveying and he just is like, screw it, and then just jumps down in front of all three of his troops and he goes, hello there.
Yeah. Because he just doesn't care, dude. Because he's like, no one can kill me. Yeah. Love it, dude. He's like the most legit dude in the whole series and everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, Wes, finish this up. Number 1.
Mine I guess we don't know this, but it's probably Obi-Wan's favorite. And well, whatever, but it's Obi-Wan too. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi, dude. And I think it's not the fact that he beat Darth Maul. It's just, can you imagine watching your mentor get struck down right in front of you? And I remember watching the movie, I like, oh dude, I'm so mad. You can't kill Qui-Gon.
Right.
And
I'd like Qui-Gon.
That's about as mad as you saw him get. But he's a Padawan. Of course he's gonna be mad. But he still handled Darth Maul. He won by default. And
he cut him in half.
He did cut him in half. But the Revenge of the Sith, it's like, talk about one of the darkest days ever.
Right.
And he kind of just rolls through it. He's like, he's like, yeah, all the Jedi are gone. It's just me and Yoda. And then he's like, oh, then my Padawan killed all the younglings, all the children. Oh, that sucks. But he just kind of rolls with it, beats Anakin. And the best is when he gets on the shuttle. And he's like, and you see it on his face for once. He's like, oh, shoot, what do I do now? This is bad. like the Empire's killed all the Jedi. My Padawan's turned to the dark side. I basically had to cut off his legs. And he's just so cool. And then he decides, you know what? Hey, I'll watch after the kid, I guess. I'll just go to Tatooine in the desert and watch over a kid. I mean, who would do that nowadays? It's like, drop him off at the YMCA. It's like he's so humble but funny but intelligent, and he's just a badass. I love it when he has a drink and he's like, you're thinking, what? You're a Jedi, you can't have a drink? You can drink, dude. He goes anywhere he wants when he wants.
Dude, I think Ewan McGregor plays that part so well.
Yeah.
That, like, for me, that's what makes Obi-Wan, like, yes, his parts are great, his writing's great, and everything's, but I don't know that you get a better person to play his part
No, it
for
was a
those.
perfect. It was a
Yeah,
perfect cast.
that was a good match.
Perfect. And
Right.
I finally saw the Kenobi Darth Vader scene where that was
Oh,
bad.
dude, his series is good. Like they're
Dude,
supposed to be making a second season, but
dude, that
that
was
first
bad.
season was legit, dude.
Dude.
That's good.
And Alec Guinness was good too.
Yeah.
That was another thing. The character itself, he nailed it. I mean,
Well, yeah, because you're playing the old,
old,
Obi-Wan.
too old, too old.
And it was a different time, obviously. You're talking the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
That's not like you
Remember
said
that?
that earlier. There's a lot of advantages, to acting later. So
And
yeah, you can't be mad at him for that. Like he did a good job.
an actor like, I mean, him playing that part. I love it how he explains the Force.
Right.
It's like we're talking about the most accomplished actor in literally the last 20 years before that movie. Explain the Force. It's like the greatest thing you've ever heard because he's such a good actor. He explains it so cool. It's like nowadays, like nobody can do as cool as that.
Yeah, I love that. Like I had to personally use Ewan as the staple because
Yeah.
I think he's the best Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah.
Man, there's more agreements than I thought there was going to be.
I know.
No, I didn't know. I didn't all agree on Obi-Wan,
Yeah. Well,
but it makes
Yoda,
sense. We're all
dude.
right, by the way.
So honorable mentions though, like I had the Ewoks up there because dude, you gotta love the Ewoks. And Chewbacca, like how do none of us say
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca? How did
Yeah,
none of us said Chewbacca?
yeah. I almost put Princess Leia at 5, but the last
No,
movie.
no,
No,
no.
but she's such a good actor. Tell me a better who could play Princess. I mean, I guess that's part of the problem too. It's the actress more than the character
Right,
itself,
right.
and that's another reason why I left it off.
I'll take Admiral Akbar over Princess Leia.
Hey,
Um,
why aren't we Lando, man? Lando
that so yeah,
Calrissian.
so
Lando,
Lando, um,
dude.
yeah, Chewie. Those are two I had a hard time taking off the list. Boba Fett, hard time take. Jabba the Hutt.
For me, Grand Moff Tarkin, because he was like the main villain, really, in
Right,
Hope.
right.
Yeah, I thought about the Emperor, but I was like,
I had Darth Vader, dude. Come on,
Darth Vader. I thought about it.
none of us had Darth Vader on our list,
I no, I took him off. I had to put
especially
Luke.
like
I had to put Luke up there.
newer Darth Vader, like Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan series.
I
Dude, he
know.
was brutal.
Rogue
Rogue
One.
One. I
Yeah,
love the
Rogue
Rogue
One.
One where he
Yeah,
killed everybody. It was awesome. It was like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah. I guess yeah, we're just not into bad guys.
no, it's like you need more of a top 10 than a
Well,
top.
for me, she wasn't in the movies, but she's was in the cartoons, and she's gonna get her series here. But Ahsoka Tano,
Right.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
her.
And then the blue girl. What's her name?
Hera Syndulla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like her too. Uh, all the newer stuff. And then the dude that played Han Solo's son that turned bad,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, Kylo Ren.
yeah, Kylo Ren. It's also a tough one because I thought there was good parts of it, but I thought there was like not so great parts of it.
He
What's
was
funny is
good.
I
He was
was trying
good.
to get my ideas, so I checked out, like Googled the top, and they had like Finn and
And
Poe
Ray,
and
Ray,
Ray. and Rose all like in the
Like,
Rose,
10. I'm like,
get out of
Rose
here.
is in the top 10.
Get
Yeah.
out of here.
there was one that had Rose's sister who was in it for like 2 minutes,
Right.
like ahead of like Tarkin and stuff. And I'm like,
Right.
really? Like she
Get
had
outta
that
here.
much.
You know what? The beginning of that movie is so bad. It's almost unwatchable. It's that bad.
I'll tell you, like, I will die on this horse, but Poe Dameron is one of the weakest Star Wars characters of all time.
Yeah.
Just in the last movie, when he's like, I'm sorry, guys. We're gonna have to. We didn't do it. He's like, what kind of Star Wars hero gives up?
Right. You're like, that's not what Star Wars is all about.
No, that's why those last movies. I'm like, okay, you made Luke forget everything that he'd learned,
Yeah.
and then you got Poe, who's supposed to be Han Solo, right, and make him into a guy that's like, oh, we're not gonna do it. Oh, thank you, Lando, for coming and saving the day.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of those. I like the series that came out. I enjoyed Boba Fett and Mandalorian and Obi-Wan. I think those were all good. But the later movies,
No.
just not. I mean, I like kind of like Rogue One. I kind of like Han Solo or Solo.
Solo is pretty cool.
Right.
I mean, Han Solo makes The Force Awakens. Without him, it wouldn't have been as good.
Right.
Well, he's Obi-Wan in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, nobody's Obi-Wan.
No.
No, but in that movie, he's
Yeah.
basically the character, because Force Awakens just A New Hope.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was a tough topic, to be honest with you. I had a hard time. I had a lot of characters on there that I had to delete that I didn't want to.
We could be talking about it all night. That's the
Right.
problem. It's like one of those things you talk about all night.
And I mean, here's the thing, dude. Star Wars is so good. Even the first three, like even number one, Phantom Menace, people are like, oh, Phantom Menace. Dude, I like the Phantom Menace. I'm sorry. Sorry. I like
Yeah,
it.
it was Jar Jar almost ruined
Is
it.
it the
Well,
best
it grew on
Is it
me.
the best? Yeah, it's not the best
Jar
Star Wars
Jar.
movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's not the best Star Wars movie ever made, but you know what? It's still a good movie. Still like it.
Yeah. I
Qui-Gon's
watch it all the time.
Qui-Gon's
And then-
badass in the whole movie.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Attack of the Clones, you got the whole romance, like the horrible dialogue.
Right.
But then you get past that, and then the other parts are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
the fight scenes are awesome.
the coolest ass fight scenes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dooku.
So that's the thing with Star Wars for me.
Yeah.
Although I still watched them. They weren't bad. Definitely worth watching the later movies. And then series obviously I think got better. But that's the thing. It's like it's something everybody should watch. It's great. It's fun to watch. So nothing wrong with that.
My son's all about it now, so
Yeah. I mean, sons are always going to be about it. You're lucky you didn't have a daughter. Because you'd be watching Barbie.
Did you watch
did you
Barbie?
go see Barbie?
No, no.
Oh God.
I will never go see Barbie.
It's all people are talking about is Barbie. I'm like, really?
Dude,
I mean,
Barbie and Oppenheimer is doing well too.
I do want to see
That's what
Oppenheimer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
want
wanna
to see
see
Oppenheimer. I
Oppenheimer.
want to see Oppenheimer.
I'll go see it.
I mean,
but-
I kind of already know the story of it because I'm such a big World War II buff and Manhattan Project, all that stuff. But I still would like to see the movie. Cool. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. That was a long podcast. We had a lot of good topics. So good stuff. We'll get this one posted. What do you guys think we should put up for a poll on this one?
I don't even think about it. 'Cause on which topic? So
I mean, we go with anyone. Like I could just make up a poll, but if we talk about it on the podcast, maybe more people
Well, I
will try
mean,
to
you can
do it.
do who's a better Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness or Ewan McGregor. I mean,
well, that's gonna.
Or
but
wait, who's a better Jedi, Yoda or Obi-Wan?
yeah, that's a good one.
That's yeah, it's legit.
Who's a better Jedi? Well, people listening, if you have any comments, you want to hear the poll, let us know. I think that's a good one. We'll try to think of some more. But thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like. For you listening on Anchor Podcast, thanks for the listens. Don't forget to comment on anything you want us to hear, and we will see you guys next time.